This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
A typical winter scene greets us this morning with beautiful backdrop of red, puffy little clouds with a dry, dead tree in the foreground. It is a beautiful, beautiful start to the day, albeit a very, very cold one. It is because the clouds have sort of shifted, and after the last few days of rain, it means that we are in for, I think, a rather chilly morning this morning. My name is Tristan, and on camera I've got David, and we are coming to you live from South Africa, which is very exciting, and that means that you can get hold of us and ask any questions or have any comments, and you can do that on #SafariLive. Now, the plan for the morning is, well, we were out doing some testing with the drone. We had a few hyenas that were making quite a bit of noise to the south of the sort of Gari Dam area. I have a funny feeling maybe they stole a kill from somebody, and they are now sort of headed southeast. We've lost them in one of the blocks off sort of Batalier area. It's very, very thick there, but I have a funny feeling that maybe they have a den somewhere in these areas, so I want to try and have a little quick scan around and see if maybe they're using Gwen's old den, because we've just heard two of them calling from that general vicinity. So that's why we're right down in the sort of southeastern corner of Djuma. So we're going to go have a little scratch around there. Maybe we'll get lucky, maybe we'll find some sort of sign of a hyena den. It's been so long since we had the den on Djuma that it's been about a year now almost. I think it must have been about August, September, somewhere there that no, it went a little bit longer. I lie, sorry. We had the den until into December, but it'll be nice to have a new den again and just to try and kind of see what's going on. I might be completely wrong and there's no den whatsoever, but it's worth a little bash and worth a little check and see what's happening. Like I say though, it is a seriously cool morning. We went through the Mulawati earlier and Dave and I almost froze instantly. It was like going through a polar vortex as we dropped down into the drainage line. It's somewhat better up where we are now because here is at least nice and sort of high, and therefore we've got a little bit of warmer air in this sort of section. But down in the drainage lines it is positively freezing, and I'll show you why it is. Well, you can see that it's very cold down in the drainage lines because there's a whole bunch of mist down there, which I will show you fairly shortly once I get around this bend. There's a nice beautiful view actually from very close to where we are, so hopefully we'll be able to show it to you. It's got mist, it's got color, it's got everything this morning actually. Even a dead tree for you, Darby. Very nice, very nice. Right, so you can see from up here it's a lot warmer, just given the fact that the mist has settled a lot lower. So that cold air has sunk into the Mulawati system. Where that mist line is running, that is inside the Mulawati itself. So you can see on the ridge areas where we are, and then further along to the west, there is no mist on those areas, and that's because that's warmer air and kind of is pushed all that moisture down deeper into the sort of valley. So it's going to be a very cold start to the day. Once the sun is up though, I think we'll be okay. I think we'll start to warm up fairly quickly. The interesting thing though is there's always that theory that if you see a red sky in the morning, that bad weather is on its way, and well, this morning is about as red a sky as we could have had. So maybe we're going to have a situation where we're going to get a bit of poor weather this morning, or later this afternoon. I hope not though. I hope that's the last of the rain for quite some time. Good. Now it's not just me out here. There is also actually two other gentlemen that will be joining me this morning, but the first of which is ready to go and wants to say good morning.
Well, thanks Tristan, and absolutely everybody, good morning. And look at that, a nice crisp cold start to the morning, and we are coming to you live from the Djuma Traverse in the Greater Kruger National Park of South Africa. My name is Ralph Kirsten, and on the camera this morning I've got Sebastian. Bonjour Sebastian, and bonjour to all of you. Now please don't forget to join us on the #SafariLive on Twitter and on the YouTube live chat. Send us your questions and your comments and get involved on this interactive sunrise safari. Now, very exciting, because just a little while ago I heard a leopard rasping from camp. So we've headed out in the direction of where we heard that noise coming from, and hopefully we're going to be able to catch up with him. It sounds like it might be the Duke Tingana, the male leopard. So we're going to see if we can catch up with him indeed. It was coming from sort of southerly direction from where we were in the central parts at camp. So we're going to head immediately in that direction. And Seb, also my cameraman, knows the routes that he generally likes to take. So I'm going to follow his advice. And if we don't spot him directly from where the sound was coming from, we're going to move in the way that he likes to move as well. So that's the plan this morning for me. If we don't catch up with Tingana, well, then I'm going to head in a westerly direction and follow up from what I was doing yesterday at the end of the drive, which was trying to find Hukumuri or Shudulu. That would be great. Now, those we did see a couple of impala just moving through here into the block. And they seem to be rather relaxed, but as per usual, nice and bright and early in the morning like this. They've got their hair all raised, trying to keep themselves a little bit warm because it is rather chilly this morning. But as Tristan said, I'm sure as that sun pokes up over the horizon, it's going to warm up rather quickly. So it's chilly for now, but it won't be for too long, I'm sure. This cold front that we have been experiencing over the last 2 days seems to be petering out or coming to an end. So I'm pretty sure that over the next few days we're going to have or experience a little bit more warm weather as opposed to the last little while. It has been rather chilly. And the animals have felt it as well, from the birds all sitting up on top of the trees, ruffling out their feathers, trying to keep warm, to the impala raising their hairs and trying to trap the warm air in there, and to us not seeing any real reptiles of any note, apart from the odd crocodile down by the river or the water holes. It's been very quiet on the reptile front, and that's mainly down to the temperature and the weather conditions of late. But, well, these few female impala seem to be rather relaxed, so I don't think that Tingana is in the direct vicinity. Always good just to sit and watch them, because they can very easily indicate to us exactly which direction a leopard might be in, or if there is one in close proximity. So always good just to stop with them for a little while. Okay, so as they now really get down and relaxed and start feeding, I think it's time for us to head off in the direction that we heard that leopard calling. And while Sydney, who's out on bushwalk this morning, I'm sure he'll be able to get his nose to the ground and tell us if there's any tracks and signs. But, well, let's head off to him.
A very, very good morning. I am now at the beginning of our guided walk this morning, and I am not traveling alone. With me is Herbert, who is going to be our game scout for this morning. And behind me, I have got Craig, our photographer, and hopefully as a team, we are going to make this guided walk memorable. So I am now at the quarantine area, and that is whereby earlier on there was some audio. It was an audio for the leopard. So we are going to hang around here and see if we can pick up the tracks, and then we will take it from there. Behind me, I've got some activities taking place of some impalas. You can see there we even got some wildebeest. So I'm going to slowly and carefully try to track these cats. So you can see that is a very good combination. The wildebeest are very much relaxed and feeding with the impala. So let's go around and see if we can identify some tracks going down that side. So far it looks very quiet. No sign yet. Or maybe the vehicles have their tracks already. To all those who are wishing me all the best on this guided walk, thank you very much, and I hope I will enjoy too. Yeah, No tracks, nothing yet. So, as I'm looking for these tracks, I'm going to now hand over to Tristan. Maybe he's got something interesting already on his side.
Well, not just yet, Sydney. It's still kind of taking it very slow, just stopping and listening where we can, and just trying to kind of generally work out what's going on this morning. I'm pretty sure that those hyenas that we kind of heard first thing and then ended up trying to kind of follow a little bit, they, I'm sure, have stolen a kill from the leopard that Ralph heard calling, because there are tracks for a male leopard going straight up Weaver's Nest, and they go towards where we heard the cackling hyenas to start the day. And then that leopard was heard around sort of the camp at 6 o'clock-ish, so I think maybe it made a kill and was stolen from him, unfortunately. And so hopefully Ralph will have a bit of luck, and Sydney, the two of them together, will be able to find said male leopard. I'm going to still try and head towards this old hyena den that we had before and just double check if there's not any sign of them here. If there's nothing here, then I'm going to do the southern boundary and all the way probably to Triple M, just in the hope that Tamba or Hosana have come back. And the reason why I say that is because both of them are flirting with the edge of Djuma. So they were both seen yesterday. Hosana was seen a little further afield. He was seen on sort of an area called Shirley's or Serengeti Pan, which is straight south of Elephant Plains Camp. So if you had to have a map, there would be Elephant Plains Camp and an airstrip, and straight south of that airstrip is a little pan, and that's where Hosana has been for the sort of duration of yesterday. And then little Tamba was also seen, and I think he was seen, I didn't get an exact answer as to where, but I think he was seen somewhere around Little Gowrie, that area. So they're not far at all, and you never know, the two of them could easily have slipped onto Djuma, and wouldn't that be a nice surprise to have one of the two young boys around Azol. So that's kind of where I think I'm going to be focusing my attention today, and see if maybe we get lucky. Now, that's interesting. So, we're at this old hyena den, the back side of it. And this is where Gwen denned, in this termite mound here. But on the bottom sort of left of the termite mound, there's actually a bone that's busy sticking there. I can't see if it's a fresh sort of bone at the moment, but you can see there's definitely, that's the leaf up to the left, Darby. There, that one, yeah. So there's a sort of piece of bone that's been brought back, and it looks like it's been nibbled on a little bit. So let's just go around to where the entrance of this hole is and see, maybe, just maybe, there are some hyenas that have actually taken up residence here. I don't see too many hyena tracks on the road, but you never know. Let's see here. It would be really nice if there is hyenas around. I don't see anything yet. Have a look. All seems fairly quiet. I don't see anything inside of there. Darby, you see anything? Doesn't look like it, no. It doesn't really look like there's anything even that's moved around too much. The entrance is fairly undisturbed. There's quite a few leaves that are sort of hanging about, and it doesn't look as though it's been trodden on quite a bit. I just thought maybe we would find some sort of sign of something here, but alas, no sort of luck for us today. It doesn't mean that they're not somewhere around here. They definitely were calling from this area. It could be just on sort of Little Gowrie, Chitwa, or Torchwood, or us. We're right in that little corner between those four properties, and so it's difficult from far away to know exactly where they are when it's so close to the sort of boundary. So they could be just off our area, but at least we kind of have some sort of sign of hyenas kind of moving around, and I'm sure we'll be able to find something at some point. Good. So while we carry on our search, Ralph is doing the exact same, and hopefully he's got some little updates for us.
Well, everyone, this is, you know, one of my best parts. Seb is telling me there's some elephants in front. There is directly in front of us. Good spot there, Seb. And why I was saying that is because it's so crisp on these winter mornings. Yes, it does make us a little bit cold and maybe make your nose run a little bit, but it is really, really nice to be out nice and fresh in the morning like this. And let's just stop here and give these elephants a chance to relax with our presence, and we can just enjoy the noises that are going around and being associated with them. And hopefully we'll even be able to hear that leopard wood sawing again while we're sitting here waiting to see if these elephants give us a nice little show or whatever. It looks like they're feeding on a bit of a weeping wattle there. That's right. There's no thorns involved on that. Just doing a bit of bush clearing. Whether they eat the branches or not, it obviously does assist quite a big time in keeping the bush a little bit clear. I thought there was a vehicle noise, but I think it's actually the elephants communicating in that very low pitch. No, what is that? On this side is impala, I think. Yeah, they sound like impala rutting. So there's all sorts of noises coming through now, which is always nice when you, in a nice fresh early morning, the birds start to call, and then we've got elephants now breaking branches. We've got impala rutting noises just off to our side as well, and I'm just hoping for that leopard rasp any time soon. It's a perfect time of the morning for that. Sound travels very far. This nice crisp temperature. Not any wind to speak of, as Tristan was showing in, as we also started with that mist down in the valley. This elephant now also just enjoying the nice fresh early morning. Now, Jessica, I think what you're trying to say is how often do we find big bulls with large groups of females? And well, you don't often find. I wouldn't say not often, but it's not all the time that you find the big bulls moving with the herds. And when you do actually see the big bulls coming up into the breeding herds, it can be quite stressful time, because they're normally in must, which is meaning that they are also going to be quite ready to be chasing the girls and the females and wanting to mate with them, actually, and they can, be quite forceful in their manner. So the females, if they're not willing or receptive, the males do press the subject, and it does result in the herd sort of being quite stressed. There can be a lot of trumpeting and moving around, trying to almost just keep ahead of the males. But the elephants, they do need to almost continuously feed as well. So in that sense, it really does put them off their stride. Plus, if there's any little calves around, it's not a good time for the herd if there's bulls around that are in must and do want to mate when they don't. So it's quite stressful, but as I say, so it doesn't happen all the time. And bull elephants coming to must, normally, it's every 2 to 3 weeks. So in those periods, when they're around in must, it can be quite an event. But at this very moment, this little herd that seems to be here, they seem quite relaxed and just intent on moving through and feeding and doing their normal movements. That one just going behind the bush there. I'm hoping he pops out. YouTube viewer, you're actually quite correct in your question. Elephants do communicate similar to whales, but with whales, they use more of a higher pitch than elephants. Elephants use subsonic, very low pitch sound or audio that they put out, and most of which is unaudible to the human ear, because it's the sound levels are not really picked up by our eardrums, and so only by special apparatus have scientists been able to actually hear all the communication sounds that elephants use, and with them using such a low pitch as well, it does travel further than our range of audio. And they even say that with that low pitch, it can vibrate or rumble through the ground, and they can actually pick up those vibrations with the very sensitive cushions on their feet, certain sounds that they would be able to feel. So, and a lot of it is still not understood completely. Obviously, like many of the animal noises and so on, we can't exactly decipher what it means. We can see from the reactions of animals what we think it might be, but we can't exactly. We don't speak elephant, so we don't know the language. If we were able to talk to an elephant that could speak one of the human languages and he could translate for us, that would be great. But that's where we would have our starting point in enabling us to decipher their language. But for now, it's just a reaction that we'd have to see from the elephant and, towards the communication that it receives. So that is absolutely beautiful in the early morning like this, with this golden hour of light. And it's always beautiful at this time, especially when you're out on foot. And speaking of which, off to the bushwalk team.
I've got something very much interesting here right in front of me. You can see a very nice, beautiful tent. It has got quite a lot of moisture on it. This is from a tropical spider. This is one of the sit and wait predators. What the spiders do is that they come and they pitch the tent. Soon as the prey comes, it get caught and they catch, and that is how they eat. So spiders are one of the very interesting insects. It's just that by this time of the year, it's quite very difficult to see a lot. So let me just try and see very nicely, much closer. Oh, beautiful, eh? Nicely built. Some of these spiders, they've got a very interesting behavior, whereby they go and pitch the tents, and just shortly before dark, they are going to eat again the whole web, because that web does help them when it comes to the digestive system. So they come and pitch, and afterwards they've got to take that web again. So we are now going to again carry on and try to investigate and see what we can find in this area. Already I have picked up some tracks, but they are not that very fresh. Maybe if I can follow these tracks, we might end up getting hold of an animal. So let's carry on. Oh, this is a very beautiful web, eh? A tropical spider. There is only one spider in that web. It's just that now I was not very lucky to see what is in it. You can hear there's some calls. The birds are very much excited this morning. Nature is calling. So let's carry on and see if we can find something interesting again. No tracks so far here. Just too many vehicles. So now I am going to go to Tristan. Maybe he's got some updates for us on the other side, and I am going to trek hard now. This morning must have to be our lucky morning with the cats.
Well, I hope so, Sydney. It seems like you are a bit of a lucky charm, so hopefully you'll get some luck and you'll find what you're looking for. Our side of the world, we're down on Chitwa at the moment. I'm just scratching around, having a little look, seeing what's been happening, what's been moving, and where things are going. I'm trying to just kind of check if there's any sign of any leopards or, well, anything really. It doesn't sort of matter what we find. It will just be nice to kind of Chitwa again, get familiar with things, see all the little water, which is the case. I always like to come down to this area, off around in it, but it sounds like there are issues. So they take over. Let's send you back across to Ralph.
Well, everyone, I have just picked up a fresh track of a leopard, but while we're doing that, I've also found a very photogenic animal here, that donkey in pajamas, the very indomitable zebra. I only see one, and there's a second one in amongst the impala, and there are a few of them here in this very early morning light. It's just hidden in there. There it is. You see, even with that black and white, you would think it's a very sort of contrasting to the bush colours that we have here, but they do camouflage incredibly well. So there's a couple of them there, and we in the Eastern Cape and off onto the western parts of South Africa, you get the mountain zebra, the Cape mountain zebra, which is actually an endangered species, a little bit different to the Burchell's zebra. It doesn't have that shadow stripe, the Cape mountain zebra, I mean. And up into Namibia, we have the Hartmann's mountain zebra, also doesn't have that shadow stripe. And with the Burchell's zebra, you can see that those stripes meet all the way on the belly. So they literally, that goes into a very thin line on the belly, but it does go all the way round. And with the mountain zebra, they are more of a desert adapted zebra, or a waterless or short environment, and very hot conditions can prevail. So they have a white belly, like the springbok, like the ground squirrels, like the ostrich, like the gemsbok or the oryx as well. So all those desert adapted animals have white bellies, enabling them to reflect the heat which they find, which emanates from especially the rocky surface of the desert conditions that reflects off the ground. So they're reflecting that back towards the ground and keeping their belly a little bit cooler than normal. They also have a dewlap around the neck area that the Burchell's zebra does not have, and so that's another way to identify them. But that shadow stripe or lack thereof in the mountain zebra is a very clear giveaway, and then the white belly. Their body mass is also less than that of these plains zebra or Burchell zebra, because as you can imagine, they don't quite get as much protein as these guys do. Even though their habits are exactly the same, they are still bulk grazers, but sometimes they would have to go a few days without food, and so their body mass, like the desert adapted elephants, is different to that of their sort of more what can I say? I wanted to say tropical counterparts, but their cousins, or not even their cousins. I mean, it's in the same family, but they have a lot more food available to them, so their body mass is just relative to that. Definitely not a different species, so I don't want that to be confused. The exact same species. With the elephants, but with the zebra there, they become then cousins of each other. As would the Grevy's zebra that you'd find up into East Africa and further north as well. So I always find that zebra are possibly the most photogenic of all the animals out on the plains. I think it's with their contrasting colours and their mane that stands up like that. Now, Sammy Jane, you say that this is a very good-looking creature. Absolutely, I have to 100% agree with you. It looks like his hair has been combed this morning, just ready for us to come along and take a nice photo. It looks in perfect nick. There's not a hair out of place, and with a beautiful golden hour this morning. Look at that. Very pretty. I always love it when zebras stand sort of tip to toe, and they put their heads over each other's rumps, resting their very heavy skeletal heads or skulls on each other, as well as being able to look out for each direction from each other as well. That always makes for wonderful photos. But zebra can be quite aggressive towards each other as well. They bite and kick each other on regular occasion. And if you ever see a zebra without a tail, you can bet your bottom dollar that it was another zebra that bit it off, as opposed to having a close shave with a predator. The drongos are already hard at work as well there. Look at that. I'm just trying to pick up on the little insects that might be bumped up by the zebra. Jason, I haven't seen a maneless zebra. I haven't heard of it as well. I might have around the campfire somewhere, but I can't remember anything like that. What I have seen is in Namibia, in Etosha National Park, I've seen some very strangely coloured zebras, almost like having a black patch and then a white patch, and looking completely out of sorts. So I've seen that in the colour variation, but I haven't seen a hairless mane on a zebra. And also in, near to Swakopmund in Namibia as well. That's up the coastline. That's a small sort of desert town on the coast, near to Walvis Bay, which is another World Heritage Site. There they get a lot of what we call zonkies, a mix between a donkey and a zebra. Look at there, he's having a good scratch. So zonkie would be like your mix between a horse and a donkey, being a mule. But very similar in that. It's a very strange looking zebra donkey, zonkie. And also being sterile, so no babies coming from the zonkies. They do keep them, and use them for donkey carts. And that they use that for local transport. But this zebra is beautiful. Very fat belly as well. That's normal for zebra. Well, having said that, it's a beautiful hour. We've had a lovely little stop with this zebra. I think the leopard search needs to continue. So I'm going to send you off to Tristan, who seems to have found something else very beautiful.
We have found some signal, Ralph, down on Chitwa, and we are sitting with a beautiful herd of waterbuck that are just slowly grazing their way along in the early morning light. And I was just saying to David now, it's amazing how beautiful our winter light is. We get this soft yellow sort of color that comes out, and it makes all of our animals seem very good looking. It's an amazing kind of way that the light sort of enhances all of our animals' sort of color and makes it just that much better. I suppose for photography and for any sort of camera person, and you get golden light, it's kind of one of those things that you take notice of quite quickly. So and that's the reason, is it just makes everything look that much better. So always nice to see animals in the light. Also, it's nice to be in some sunshine because it's extremely cold near Chitwa Dam, so it's nice to have a bit of sun to start warming up again. It's been sort of an hour and a half of sitting in the cold, and it's nice now to actually feel a little bit of warmth coming through. Now, Ralph just now was talking about maneless zebras, and he does, not that he's heard of. There is a sort of area where there's zebras that occur that don't have manes. I can't remember where it is exactly, but I have seen pictures of them where there's this sort of change in their structure, and that their manes are very, 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 very small and very short. So you do get it from time to time, and it does happen, but it's not a very common thing. Here in the Sabi Sands, we don't get very many zebras with, any zebras that I've seen that don't have manes. Our zebras here typically have quite long manes, and in fact, actually, we have a situation where a lot of our zebras have actually got quite long manes. And there was one that used to walk around here for quite some time, and I'm not sure if it was ever seen on Djuma, but there was a individual that had extremely long mane, so the sort of mane almost flopped over past its sort of neck. It looked much like a horse in some respects, with this long kind of sort of mane that came down. The interesting part about it, though, was that it was only the sort of black striped fur that had the long sections. The white striped fur was still short, so it was almost like this weird kind of reverse piano effect with the sort of long black areas and then very short little white areas. But interesting to see, and it was a beautiful specimen because, like I say, that kind of mane would flow down sort of the side of its neck, and it was a big stallion as well, so I'm sure the ladies quite enjoyed him. He was a foreign national in this area and would have been quite attractive, I'm sure, to many of the girls out here. So, fox, who's 10 years old, fox, well, the reason that this animal has a circle on its bottom is because it's a following signal. So many of our animals out here will have markings on their bums, whether it be impalas or waterbuck or lion or leopard. They all have some sort of marking that contrasts against the color of their coat. So what that means is, if you look at this waterbuck, it's a kind of browny sort of gray color, and if you see that white, it really is quite easy to see, isn't it? You can see it from a long way away. And so when the herd is moving around, that's how they're able to see one another, to be able to follow that one, because they know if that one is walking in front of them and that one is still walking, it's safe. It's a place that they can follow and they can be able to go to try and avoid predation. It's also a way of young babies being able to see where their mothers are in order to try and then go and suckle. So it's a very clever way to kind of keep, you know, the babies up with the mother, as well as for the herd to try and kind of follow one another around. So very, very, very clever. And like I say, all animals have it. It's just very different in every single one. So waterbuck has this beautiful big white circle, whereas the impalas have those sort of 3 black lines. And you'll find on a lion it's got a little black tip to its tail, whereas a leopard has a little white tip to its tail. So it just depends on the animal. Also, the coloration of that marking will depend on where the animal spends most of its time. So lions mostly are out in sort of open grassland areas. They like to move around through grassland sections, and so therefore that little black tip is very, very useful because it contrasts and is very easy to see on the light colored grass. Leopards, however, they like to spend most of their time in very dense, thick areas where there's lots of shade and lots of dark areas, and so that white tip is much easier to see in the shade than in the sort of dark in a dark tail. So it's a clever sort of system, and everybody's got their own little way of being able to see one another. But the waterbucks is certainly a very fancy marking, isn't it? It always looks quite funny and always evokes quite a lot of giggles out of many people when they see it. Daniel, I don't know if I heard this correctly, Megs, but did you say hairless waterbuck or tailless waterbuck? Tailless. Not tailless. Tailless, no. I've never seen a tailless waterbuck that's... I mean, there's no species that has no tail. If they don't have a tail, it will be because a predator has at some point grabbed their tail and pulled it off. And so that's not going to be very pleasant. But I actually have never, thinking about it, have never seen a waterbuck without a tail. I've seen many other animals without tails, but never a waterbuck. So it seems as though they are fleet-footed enough to escape getting their tail taken off by the chomping jaws of a predator like a hyena or a lion. Funny enough, it's quite interesting, is coming out of the Mara, is that there are so many giraffe, elephants, buffalo in the Mara that are missing tails, and I'm sure it's because of the high sort of hyena population. Here we do have a lot of hyenas, but not like there. There is just a crazy amount of hyenas, and so they go after all kinds of things, and you see a lot of animals walking around there without tails, which is quite interesting. Good. I think we're going to leave our waterbuck, let them carry on feeding. We're going to see what else is around on Chitwa. We're going to go check the airstrip. We're going to just a little general drive around. And while I do that, let's send you back across to Sydney and see if his luck is continuing and if he's found any tracks.
I've got some very interesting droppings here on the ground, and the tracks are rubbed already. So these droppings are from one of the very interesting small animal. So the droppings like this are the droppings from the rabbits and hares. The rabbits and hares, they have got a very interesting behavior because they don't just defecate and leave their droppings unattended. Firstly, they come and they defecate and immediately eat their own droppings. When seeing this kind of droppings, you must know that this is a second phase of recycling. So the first droppings to come out is going to be green, and then they will eat it. Now, if you can check the color, it's very, very light. So this shows that there is no nutrients available. They have already eaten all the nutrients available, which is a behavior called a caprophagic behavior. So rabbits, they are very beautiful. Looking at them, they've got very large ears, and the hind legs always much longer than the front legs. These animals, rabbits and hares, some they stay on the ground, they are terrestrial, and some of them they hide under the ground. Those ones are fossorial. So now I am going to carry on and try to see if we can still find some of these interesting animals. It's still very quiet. The morning is punctuated with quite a lot of bird calls. So it's very beautiful around here. So let's carry on and try to see if we can find something interesting. David, the biggest footprint I have seen on a guided walk, it was for the lions. Some of these lions, the black-maned lions, they have got very beautiful paw print, which can be very huge. So now I am going to try and see where we are. We have just spotted, I have seen quite a lot of old tracks from the cats, different cats actually, even some of the old lion tracks in the area. So the chances of coming across one of them is very high. So, James, the cat I prefer to encounter on foot is the leopard. The cats such as the lions, I have encountered them a lot, but the leopards, those are some of the cats I haven't interacted with a lot. As where I come from, the sightings of the leopards and other cats were very difficult. So here in Djuma Game Reserve, there's quite a lot of leopard activities. So hopefully I will interact with them a lot. I am hoping to interact with leopards. So let's see if we're going to find one of these leopards. Still very quiet, eh? So now we are going to head to Ralph. Ralph, maybe he's got some updates.
Well, yes, I do have a little bit of an update. It seems that Shudulu, which the tracks we were on of a female leopard, she has been found. So there's a couple of stations on with her at the moment, and it seems like I've picked up a male's leopard tracks as well. This is just on the western side of Quarantine, heading exactly in the same direction as Shudulu. So maybe he's following her, maybe it's just coincidence, he's moving in the same direction, who knows. But while the Shudulu sighting is packed up, there's 3 vehicles there at the moment, and that's full for now. I'm on standby. Hopefully we'll get a look in there before she disappears, but I'm going to now concentrate and spread the net and see if we can find Tingana, because it would be great if we could then find him. Then I could sit with him for a little while, and then when the guys open up a little bit of space at Shudulu, we could swap over, because as soon as you've got a station on, and when I say station, a vehicle or a guide that is on a leopard, obviously that's an excellent reference point, because then from there you can actually see the animal. So I'm just getting called now by Herbie. Let me just quickly respond. Herbie is our game scout. Herbie, you looking for me? As these little crested francolin run up. I'm just on that little access road on the western side of Quarantine, heading up to Vuyatile access, and a lot of Tingana's tracks moving up the road. Okay, copy, thanks man. Yeah, I'll have a look there, and then afterwards I'll try to follow up on Tingana again. So, looks like we've got a space made available. So, yes, I get to see Shadulu. Woohoo! I haven't seen her. He's one of my favorite cats of all time. Okay, so a little bit of a wait for me to go. I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to pick up a little bit of speed because the guys are making space for me, and she is mobile, so we don't want to lose her. She can very often actually leave the premises. So while I'm heading that way, let's head you off to Sydney.
I have got a very interesting sighting here. Look at that. Very fluffy hairs, eh? And yellowish yellowish legs. If you can check the half of the legs, the front legs nicely, and the back one is very yellowish. This is a male nyala. So the nyalas, males and female, they don't look the same. It's like a completely different species. So the hairs are very raised now because of the weather. But normally they raise the hairs like this when they are provoking each other, challenging each other for when it comes to the territorial behavior. So these animals, they have got some stripes there, and these stripes helps them to camouflage. Both males and females, they are striped. The males have got about approximately 14 stripes, whereas the females, they have got about approximately 18 stripes. They can be up to 18. So these animals are one of the very shy animals, and how they provoke each other for territorial purposes is amazing. They approach each other on a very slow motion, and they go past each other, and they try to exaggerate the size of the body. They raise their hairs and go around, and if one of them wants to be submissive, what it's going to do is that it's going to pretend as if it's feeding. And if it doesn't want to do that, is when a big fight is going to take place. And they've got very sharp horns. You can see that, eh? That is quite a very beautiful animal. So now, let's see who eat him. Let's go around and see. Maybe we're going to be lucky and see something that is interested on him. On the ground so far, a question from one of the viewers. I just lost the name. If you can repeat that for me. I did get the question very nicely. The dance, I have seen it. It took time. When it starts, it's very interesting. Rosinda, the dance for these nyalas is very much interesting, and it's not something which is going to take short. It's something that's going to take very long, and it's very impressive how they challenge each other for territorial reasons. So it's just that here I can only see one. If there was another one, maybe we're going to see some of those display taking place. So let's see. Maybe there's more nyalas in the same area. Let's hope they will challenge each other so that we can see that dance. So still we are heading on, trying to see if we can find one of the impressive cats. My favorite cat, the leopard. I am now going to leave you with Ralph. Maybe Ralph has got some updates with regards to the leopard sighting.
Okay, guys, the update is I'm still just trying to get into the location. I'm trying to just locate where this leopard is. It's on Sandy Patch North. I'm just trying to with the other guides, and with Seb's help, we're also just trying to locate exactly where these guys are. So we're still in the process, and this is Sandy Patch, so right up into our western corner of our traverse. Yes, so Sandy Patch, I think we're coming up Sandy Patch itself. And well, from here we are going to then be spotting the vehicle somewhere soon, just around the corner here. She's walked quite far from where we found the tracks, and a big scat as well. So It's incredible how fast and far these cats move. You think sometimes you're right behind them, but in fact they could be kilometers away from you, and you walking slowly behind on a seemingly steaming fresh track. Here's some vehicles in front. I'm pretty sure that we're going to get a view on her shortly, folks. They're just pointing in. So here we are. They're saying that she's moving through the grass or the thicket here onto our right-hand side somewhere. They pointed to her. Oop, and there I go and stall. Where is she? There, they're following her around on that side. Just trying to get a view. Those guys have obviously got her there, but she's moving through the thicket somewhere. I think she's coming further in. Rex saying I must go in this side. Let's go in here. Let's move in here. Have a look and see if we can spot her. She's in here somewhere. Let's try not. Trying to get in. Get in behind these guys. Follow in behind them. At least we know then there's a clear route in the way that they're going. And just try and get through these bushes here. A little bit of branches that are down. They're much clearer way. Here we go. Now, Isabella Shudulu, and I'm sorry for not telling you that, I should say it every time, it means termite mound, because of her habit of lying up on top of termite mounds. So Shudulu is literally Shangaan for termite mound. There she is. I've just spotted her now. She's right in between these two cars, but in the thicket. Let's just follow up slowly behind Rex. Let's just go slowly here. She's still mobile. And we'll just move up nice and slowly. Put it into low range. That'll make it easier for us to move nice and slowly over any logs or up there. We'll go over this log here nice and slowly, not to damage anything. There we go. Okay, she's getting up on the log. That will be beautiful. Maybe she's getting a bit chilly. Go find somewhere warm. There she is. I'll just stop. She's not going to stop, is she? Let's just swing. She's coming back behind these other vehicles. So let's just swing here. Let's see if we can get a view over on that side. She's going to come out there now, Sip. There we go. There she comes. Good morning, Shadoo. Nice of you. But on the move, eh? You know, she's never relaxed. She's always on the move. But let's keep on going. See if we can follow her. We'll stick up here with Mr. Rexon. At least it's sometimes a little bit easier when there are a couple of vehicles around, because you don't have to stress as much that you're going to lose sight of the leopard itself. Rexon's up front there and he's obviously keeping a view in on it. Just keep moving nice and slowly. At least this block is not too thick. Oh, there's a beautiful sight there. Look at that. Sorry, I just want to have a quick look at her standing on the log there. Look at that. Wow. Just wanted to have a check. How's the day? That is beautiful. Wow. Very pretty. Yo. She looks like she might be on the hunt as well. Yeah, that light is absolutely stunning. What a beautiful cat. And that seems like that was the little moment. There she goes. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, well, we're going to try and catch up with her. And while we're doing that, seems like Tristan has found some cats of his own.
We have found some cats of our own, many cats of our own, in fact. So we've managed to find the Styx Pride that is busy moving through the thickets, and surprisingly, they look actually quite good. I'm impressed that their mange has cleared up a lot more than it used to be. I mean, they still have it, but they've only got a little sort of few signs of it. It's not too bad at all, and it looks as though they're kind of moving around on this far sort of eastern side of Chitwa. They came out of Cheetah Plains from their tracks. They came out of Cheetah Plains and then walked north, and then have cut into Chitwa itself, and are now doing sort of a loop back. And I think that they also might be on the prowl for food, given that they're moving the way that they are. It looks like they're moving, stopping and listening, moving, stopping and listening. So I think they are indeed trying to find food of their own. We're going to try to keep up with them though, because it's very, very, very thick where we are. And that means that we're going to have a situation where it's going to be quite difficult to follow them very easily. And so we're going to have to kind of get it a little bit forward. Now, I believe a lot of you are very excited that we've got little tawny cats. Well, not so little tawny cats. I mean, they're all getting quite big now. I'm impressed with how big the sort of sub-adult males are. But it's very cool to see them. I haven't seen the Styx in absolutely ages. So it's been, I don't even know how many months since I last saw them. So it's really, really good to see them. I can, like I say, see that they still have a little bit of a sign of mange, but it's much, much better than it was this time last year, and even way better than this time sort of 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So they've sort of looked like they're on the mend, and they've done so well with these particular cubs. Given that they had such a poor run of it up until these litters, they really have kind of done well to keep them alive. And even in a situation now where the Birminghams have kind of seemingly abandoned this area, they're still managing somehow to kind of keep these little ones safe, which is really good news. So they are doing a sterling effort, the Styx girls, and it's important because you must remember that all the Styx are fairly old. None of them are young individuals, and so it's getting to a point now, if they didn't raise cubs successfully, that they were going to have a bit of a problem, and a very real possibility that the pride might have just disappeared altogether. But they've managed to kind of get cubs to sort of a year old, some of them, and then kind of going down a little bit, or I mean up from there. And so hopefully there's some females in amongst them that will be able to survive and continue the legacy of the Styx Pride. It's one of our oldest prides, so having them around is important, and it's kind of, like I say, a lot of history that has gone on with the Styx. They were one of the first prides that was kind of established and given an identification all the way back in those days, sort of 30, 40 years ago. So they've gone a long way, and hopefully they'll continue to do so. Like I said, it does look like they are on the prowl. They're not skinny. They definitely could do with a meal, but they're not sort of emaciated in any way. But they do look like they're kind of just scanning around. And I think what they're trying to do is walk through these thickets and hopefully then spot something like kudu or impalas or nyala. Even though it would be a very small sort of meal for a pride of this size, it's still kind of some nutrients that they can get. And the kudu would be a sort of fair sort of feeding for all of them. Obviously, buffalo would be a number one prize, but given that there's very few buffalo around, it's going to make that a little bit more challenging. So I think they're looking more for kind of the large antelope species that we get in these areas. Aaron, it's a bit like how long is a piece of string. Mange and how long it lasts within the pride is very difficult to say. I mean, it's obviously conditions dependent, so mange will become a real sort of problem the drier it gets, and you know, that's why it sort of exposed itself in the drought conditions that we had. As soon as we had the drought, we started to get into a situation where mange became a real problem for a lot of our prides, and it just kind of exploded out, and that's because the mite proliferates in dry conditions. The wetter it is, the less the mite kind of sort of grows, and less population they'll have on their coat, and so they'll then start to kind of recover from it. Also, grooming and sort of contact with one another, the less contact they have with one another and the more they groom it, they eventually get rid of it like that. And also, if their general health is pretty good, then they start to kind of come right from it. So it'll take a bit of time. I mean, it's been a slow process for the sticks. The Inkahumas came out of it quite quickly. They started to show a few signs of it, and they came out quite quickly. And then the Birminghams themselves, which were the ones that actually introduced mange into the sticks pride quite heavily, because Tinyo, I think it was Tinyo that had the mange on his tummy. He was the one that kind of was the first one to bring it into the pride, and then he recovered perfectly. If you see Tinyo today, you'll see that he does still have a little bit of a sort of bare tummy at times, but it's not bad at all, and he's in really good condition. So it just depends on conditions and depends on the individuals, but for the most part they come out of it as soon as they start to go through a summer season, and they can give a, you know, kind of bit of wet weather. Right, we're going to follow our lions, but it seems as though Ralph is doing the very same thing except with the spotted cat.
Okay, yeah, we're just trying to keep up with this Shadulu. She has gone into a block that makes it a little bit difficult for us to follow, and Seb has found her. There we go, perfect. So we intuitively came forward here. I've got Shadulu over here again, hey? He's walking straight towards us now. Morning, girl. She is a beautiful cat, eh? Wow, look at that. That is stunning. Wow. Ruby, I didn't know about Shadulu being injured, and that's not me saying that she wasn't, but she looks to be absolutely fine now. I don't see any limp. She's in top condition. Her coat seems great. So with that, Ruby, I'll find out exactly what happened if she was injured. I would probably put it down to either catching or trying to subdue some prey, or an inter-leopard argument. Let me just try and keep up with her. We can't lose sight of her because very quickly she'll be gone. Now she's walking down this big game path here, and we've got another vehicle in attendance. There she is. You can still see her. She definitely looks like she's on the hunt, and she's moving down this nice big game path, and if she keeps going on that, it'll be quite nice for us because we'll be able to follow her quite and not have to go through such thick stuff, which can make it a little bit difficult sometimes to follow a leopard if they go into the thick stuff. But I also do think sometimes that if they have enough of being followed, they'll just go into somewhere a little bit thicker and then make it almost impossible for you to follow. But she's got her tail up, and you can see that nice white fluffy tip to the tail. And she's now moving through. I've seen Hukamuri move through this exact area and almost on the exact same route. Now she's taken that game path there, which is quite thick. I almost need to pop around, I think, and catch up with her, but it's always tricky because now I see her banking to the right. You know, you can go around and then she's shifted that way and then you lose her altogether. Still see her tail through there. She's now stationary. She's now stopped. I just want to see. I'll just watch her. There she, yeah, you can just make out. There, she started to move again, and as I thought, she's banking a little bit further to the west. And so, if we did go around, we would maybe have lost her. There she goes. She's banking. It's going straight west now. Okay, we can go this way. I have to try and find a gap through the bushes here. Make it a little bit easier for us. So she's headed straight that way. We need to get around here. But there's every chance that we might lose her altogether here, just so that you know. It's not always possible to move through this stuff. So, right, I'm just going to try and catch up with Shudulu, but while I'm doing that, it seems Tristan has managed to catch up with the sticks.
I have indeed. So they're just still slowly kind of moving about. Every now and then they stop and they kind of sit down and watch what's going on. And these are the youngest ones that are closest to us. That the last time I saw them were little bundles of fur that were bouncing around all over the place. Now they've got these kind of big bodies and quite lanky. In fact, these two little ones are probably, I would say, bigger than Kalamba already, even though they're a little bit younger. So they really have grown quite a bit, and the pride looks good. Like I say, I mean, they much better condition than the previous times that I've seen them. I mean, we've come a long way since the sort of days where we had the cubs that were really in poor condition. I don't know if many of you remember when we had the cubs that were in sort of mangy condition. They literally were lacking every bit of fur on their bodies. It was really quite sad to actually see them. There was one cub in particular that, funny enough, lasted the longest, which was quite strange. But that poor cub was literally had maybe small tufts of fur on it in places. It was really quite sad to kind of watch it. And in fact, during that period, I used to, in some ways, avoid even coming to the sticks, because it was just not a very pleasant thing to see these poor little cubs kind of itching as much as they were, and sort of scratching. Unfortunately, they all eventually, of the 8 of them, they all eventually died from various reasons. It wasn't only mange. Some of them was from mange, but some of them also were, well, one was actually killed by an elephant, which was quite strange and very close to where we are right now. The poor little cub was sitting with one of the others, and the herd of elephants came in, and the cub unfortunately just didn't have the strength to run away, and an elephant actually came and killed the cub, which was quite traumatic for those that saw it. So, you know, it's not just hyenas and lions and those kind of things that they face. They also get, you know, things like elephants that cause problems. Now, this lioness, there's one that's just peeled off very quickly to the right. She's gone right round. The rest of the pride went to the left. So I think they've spotted something in front here that they're potentially hunting, which is very exciting. She's disappeared that way. The rest of the pride kind of sort of broke up in front of us and just went through behind this termite mound. And the two little ones, you can see, they've taken the cues. They know it's now time not to follow. They're going to try and sit here and just watch what's going on, and then they'll try and see. There comes one of the sub-adults in the background who's also kind of looking. They're old enough now to start participating in the hunts, and you can see they're watching that one female that moved off. But it's definitely a situation where the lions are actually spreading out quite a bit now. So I'm pretty sure they've spotted something that they want to try and go after. Maybe there's a, like I say, a kudu or something that's inside of these thickets that they've decided that they're going to try and hunt. The problem for us is that we have this massive termite mound in our way, which is going to make it very difficult. So I might reposition a little bit just so that we can actually see what's going on. Davi, what do you think? Do you want to go back or forward? I think maybe forward is going to be much better, because forward is a little bit more open than back. Back is full of monkey orange, and monkey orange is not a nice tree to try and drive over. But let's just try and see if we can just get a better view of where they're moving, or if there's a prey animal that we can actually see. Seems as though there's nothing that I can see in front of us here. The pride is still moving through, so we're going to try and just catch up with them and see exactly where they're heading and what's going on in front of us. And while we do that, let's send you back across to Ralph, who's having trouble keeping up with Shadulu.
Yes, we are, and it looks like she may have just laid down, and she's doing a little bit of grooming. So I'm just going to try and put my nose in here without disturbing her, that we can get a nice view on her. And also there's another vehicle just over there. I don't want to disturb their view, but I think we could get ourselves a wonderful view just about there, without anybody having a problem with our presence. Beautiful. So, but don't expect Shadulu to stay still for too long. I would give her 5 minutes max in this little phase, and I would not put it past her jumping up and moving off. And then we'll have to be on our toes again following her. That's what I love about her. She really keeps us guessing. But for the moment, looks like she's just calming down a little bit. Desi Moon, yeah, when a female leopard comes into estrus, you can find her habits start to change a little bit. She will actively go and, almost unnaturally be found in the presence of, or be following up on males. So she will also move, closer to them, which is quite unusual for leopards because they are such solitary animals. And so you could pick up that also from their tracks, that they are moving around where there are males. So you can definitely see by that. And, a little bit a while ago when we saw, we were following on foot Shudulu's tracks with Hukumuri, with Tingana, it definitely seemed she was in estrus because she was moving around the males and almost baiting them, and say, so it was quite unusual that to have two males in the same area as well as the female, and she was inviting them. She was not moving away at all, and it doesn't mean that she necessarily was pregnant from that period, but she could definitely, I believe, will have been in estrus. But whether or not the mating from Hukumuri, which was proven, I think the guys got video of her mating with Hukumuri, and I think that Tingana has also mated with her, and not necessarily that was successful. So we think that she could be pregnant, but not necessarily, hey? We were hoping if she was, she's going to come and den near to our camp, at least stay nice and close by, maybe in the drainage line just off of Quarantine or so. That would be wonderful. But I think, as luck will have it, she'll probably do it off property in Simbabili, which is off to our west. But you never know. Can't ever tell for sure. You always got to expect the unexpected as well. And I just enjoy every moment I get with these leopards. Okay, so hopefully she's going to stay here. Oh, there she gets up, and she might go on the move, but we'll wait and see. It seems Tristan's lions, however, are already on the move.
They are, and you can see, look at how they are slinking through the grass, that they have definitely spotted something that they are interested in. What it is, I have absolutely no idea. We were sitting here and she was perfectly relaxed, and all of a sudden she kind of started to just slink away and try and kind of get into some thickets. The rest of them are all kind of stretched out in front of us here. So these are all the sub-adults and the cubs that are kind of watching what's going on. And I think the rest of the females must be further ahead, that this female is now trying to get towards where they are. So definitely something that is stirring and something that they're interested in. Also, all the cubs are watching carefully. Their ears are perked up, kind of facing forward. So I think they've spotted whatever the adults have spotted, and their eyesight must just be so incredible because we cannot see a single thing. Now, I'm laughing a little bit at Ralph because he says that Shadulu is probably going to get up. She's a restless kitty, isn't she? She doesn't really sit still for very long. Loves being up and down and all over the place, and up trees, down trees, up termite mounds. She's one of the most interesting sort of cats to follow because there's always, that something's going to happen with her. So I wish Ralph luck because it's going to be quite tough to follow Shadulu as she does those tricks. I know I've had to follow her in those western sections before, and it's quite interesting how it kind of works. Now, the rest of the lions are kind of scattered about now, so they've formed a very long sort of line. The cubs are almost sort of just lying down and not really too sort of worried about what's happening. They're just watching the adults in sort of motion, and it's important for the cubs to be part of these kind of things, because when they watch the adults, they then know how the adults go about hunting, and all the visual cues that they need to learn in time is how they're learning it now from watching the adults as they go about their business. So as the adults walk and they move, and then these guys pick it up, and then later in life, as they start to participate in the hunts, so it becomes much easier, and they can just pick up those small little changes in behavior from the females and little signals to be able to position themselves in the right way. So it's very important that they are able to kind of pay attention and watch how the females hunt. But the six pride is an interesting one. It's one that it often boxes well above its weight category in terms of hunting techniques. I've seen the sticks regularly finding all kinds of different meals for themselves, particularly very big meals. So often you see them kind of going after buffalo and even sometimes giraffe and those kind of things, and it's a small pride. It's only 3 females. I mean, the young ones here wouldn't really be participating in too many buffalo hunts, but yet they still try and do it, and they are pretty good at it actually. It's quite amazing. They're very similar, almost, they remind me a lot of the Winyo pride. Now the Winyos in the Mara are much bigger lions than what the sticks are, and really have a lot of spoiled for choice in comparison to what the sticks are, but they are very similar. You know, it's a small kind of grouping of females. The Winyos is only 2 females, and they've got these sub-adults, but yet they're still able to bring down big animals like buffalo. It really is quite interesting. But they are definitely hunting way ahead of us, I think, the females, because the way that the sub-adults are all watching, they can see what's going on. But for us, at the moment, it's a bit of a sort of guessing game as to what's going on. It would be nice if it was a single buffalo bull, because that would definitely mean that these guys would have a go, and it would be an easier, much easier hunt to follow. And if it's something like kudu or, you know, waterbuck through thickets like this, you can see it's not exactly a sort of nice open clearing. Through thickets like this, it's going to be very difficult to follow them if they chase. So hopefully it'll, will reveal what it is fairly shortly, and we'll be able to actually see it. I'm hesitant to move because there's just too many lions scattered about all over the place, and I don't want them to run or to move and give themselves away. So we're just going to be patient. Even though we can't see the females nicely, it's worth just sitting and waiting and just trying to kind of listen out and see if anything is going to happen. Good. Now we are going to sit and be patient. While we be patient, let's send you back across to Sydney, who I believe has decided to do a spot of tracking.
I've got a very interesting track on the ground here. You can see here is the toe, and here is the toe, and another toe. So 3 toes. This animal has got a very big body size. You can see that the track is much bigger, and it's a male. The direction of movement of this track is going that side. It's going that way, because you can check there, the tip of the toe is facing towards the western side. So this is one of the majestic animal, the rhino. So this rhino is coming from the eastern side of the Juma Game Reserve, heading towards the west. There is quite a lot of evidence punctuated with this track. But before we go to other interesting things that took place after this, I am going to show you the following. If you can count the number of toes here, 1, 2, 3, and think about the type of stomach this animal has got, you're going to find that this animal has got a simple stomach. It is a hind gut fermenter, which means the digestive system on rhino, it starts from the mouth as they are chewing. So the odd number of toes, most of those animals, they have got a simple stomach. And the even number of toes, those animals, they have got a complex stomach. They have got a ruminant stomach, whereby they will go out for feeding purposes. And when it's hot, they're going to take their time and hide somewhere and take back food to their mouth and chew some cud. In other words, on the ground, you can be able to tell the type of stomach the animal has got. So now, let's go to something very interesting that happened before this trek. See what is on the ground here. You can see that it seems like it rained a little bit early this morning. This is not from rain. You can see there's even some scratch marks. Here, there's something very interesting going on. This rhino was trying to demarcate his territory. He was leaving behind a very interesting communication. It's just that this kind of communication, it doesn't work to the animals of a different species. It's a communication around the animals of the same species. In other words, he left these markings trying to communicate with the other white rhinos. So how they do it is very much interesting. They come and they are going to spray, and they also drag, make use of their back legs. And trying to do this is when they are getting hold of the fresh sand so that the moisture can stay much longer. When the moisture is there for a long time, if another male comes here, he's going to get the updates. So now we are going to carry on and try to see if we can come across any of the cats in the area. The evidence I've got so far are not that very fresh. It's not convincing that we can come across any, but in the wild, you know, there's always surprises. So let's see, maybe we're going to get surprised. So we are going to the eastern side of the reserve. While we are going to the eastern side, I am now going to Tristan, who's got something very interesting on his side.
Well, we do, because we had very briefly had a view of a kudu that walked through into a thicket, and so now we're just trying to kind of get into a position where we can kind of see what's going on. But the kudu passed where these lions are, maybe I would say about 80 meters from where that is, in the thickets, and kind of moving from sort of left to right. So there is kudu here. This is exactly what they're looking at, and I'm pretty sure the females have gone way ahead of where we are. The young sub-adults are all lying down pretty close by, and I think the females are quite far ahead, actually stalking that kudu. So I don't know if we're going to get to see much of it, but we all try. You can see how the young male is watching. He's kind of checking everything out. So the oldest of the males that are sort of from these females, and you can see, look at how his ears, his neck, everything is sort of twitching and perfect, and watching what's going on, even wiggling his bum a little bit just to settle it down in the grass without making too much noise. But for sure, these guys have spotted that, and the sub-adults aren't actually going in to hunt with the females. The females have gone, like I say, way ahead, but they've really done quite well, is because I know that two females have peeled off quite far to the right and have come sort of around, and there should be a third female from the sort of left side of where these lions are, and hopefully what they're going to try and do is chase these kudu towards the two females that are lying in wait on the sort of right hand side. I think that's kind of how they're going to try and play this. It looks like it, just from the way that the lions moved, and hopefully what we'll see is the kind of bursting of the kudu through the bush towards where we kind of are, and to the right hand side of us. So that's the kind of plan, but there's no sort of other way for us to sort of view this, because at the moment there's so many thickets that are in front of us. If we go bashing through, we're just going to end up chasing those kudu away. So best to just sit tight and wait. So Billy, who's 6 years old, the lions have black ears, very much like why the waterbuck has the white sort of ring on the bum. The black ears, if we have a look at these lions, you'll have a situation where you can see that the black stands out against the grass. Remember that the grass is very similar color to what the lions is. So with the black on the back of the ears, it allows this cub to see its mom, or another cub to see another cub, and they can actually just see each other from behind, even when they're walking in the grass. And probably the best example is the one on the right hand side. Dave, if you can go a little to the right for me. There's one that's standing in the grass. Now you can see, look at her coloration in the grass. Very difficult to see her, but those black ears you see very easily. And so that's why they have the black on the ears, is so that they can see one another, even if they're hunting and they sit down in the grass. The back of the ears is visible, and they can then watch each other and make sure that they know where to go and how to kind of get closer to one another. So it's important to have those black ears, otherwise they would lose each other and it would be very difficult. You must also remember, Billy, when the little cubs are tiny and they're very small, they can't see easily in the grass. But if the mom has black ears, generally the ears stick up out the grass, so they just have to look up a little bit and they can see those little black tips, and they're okay. But you can see, look at the posture of this lion. It's busy watching very carefully what's going on. Now, I don't see where that prey animal is, but I'm half expecting this kudu to kind of appear on the sort of right side, or straight in front of where that line is. The way that that line's moving, it's almost like it's just behind the termite mound, whatever animal they're trying to kind of go after. So hopefully we'll see something appear out of the thickets. But like I say, their eyesight must be so incredible, and all their other senses, their sense of smell and hearing, because for us it's incredibly difficult to see anything, but they have most definitely already locked on to what they were trying to hunt, and have already seen that from a long way away. We were maybe 50 meters back when the first females started to stalk, so it's an incredible senses that cats show, and it'll be interesting to see how close they'll actually get. Anna-Marie, I'm sure to a degree they do chase things like scrub hares and small prey animals. You often find young lions going after things like tortoises and lizards, monitor lizards, and those kind of things. And so it's very common to kind of see young animals doing it. So leopards and lions, and they're all very similar in that regard. Something like a scrub hare, though, is very fast, and it's difficult for even something like a cheetah to be catching scrub hares. And so for lions, they typically don't really chase them. I mean, it's more sort of games that they play, and they'll kind of chase half-heartedly after a scrub hare. But these youngsters will be more kind of going after things like I say, like tortoises and little lizards and those kind of things that are much easier and much slower to catch. So things like a scrub hare is a little fleet-footed for our sort of young lions. They tend to be a bit clumsy, unfortunately. Like I say, if you watch a leopard or even cheetah, they struggle with the sort of movement of scrub hares and how quick they are. So lions typically just don't even bother. Also, in a pride like this, there's so many of these youngsters that they, if one starts chasing something, the others kind of join in as the game goes, and they often then blow the hunts that way because they're too over exuberant, and so scrub hares is a little bit tough for them. But it's not unheard of. I mean, they have caught them before, so it is very much a part of growing up, is honing your skills, and hunting things like a scrub hare is probably one of the best ways to hone their skills. It's just amazing to watch, though. The cubs take so many cues from the mothers. Everybody was relaxed, walking, playing, and all of a sudden it was just as though everybody stopped and the females peeled off, and the cubs knew straight away that this is where they must sit and this is where they must stay. They haven't moved from this area at all. I mean, they've moved a little bit kind of towards one another, and they've come together a little bit more, but they know that they need to stop here and wait, and they're all just sitting and actually listening. So they're trying to have a situation where they can hear what's going on, and if they hear that sort of pounding of feet and hooves, they know then it's time to kind of run towards wherever it is, and then they stop and they'll listen. If the adults brought down a kudu, they would hear the sort of wail of that animal, and they'll then be able to find it like that. So they know full well that it's just about finding a little spot just to sit and then just watch and make sure that they kind of pay attention as to what's going on. But for now, it seems as though the adults are much further ahead of where we are, and that we're not really going to see too much in the way of the actual hunt from this position. We'll have the cubs here, but I think the adults have moved a little bit far for us to actually see anything. I can't see any movement anymore of any kudu. They, like I say, were going in towards the thickets and kind of lost them there. It's really a very dense area that we're in at the moment, and so not easy for us to actually see what is happening or where everything is. Right, well, I think I'm going to sit tight for a little bit, or I might see if we can just position a little bit differently, maybe if we can at least get a glimpse of the kudus. And while I do that, let's send you back across to Ralph, who I'm sure is thoroughly happy to be spending the morning with Shadulu.
Well, thoroughly happily, but also being kept on our toes in typical Shadulu fashion. She is not resting for very long at all, and keeping us really having to look through the bushes. Now here she is. There we've got a bit of a clearer spot on her, so I'm just going to move a little bit forward here because she hardly ever stops, so you can hardly ever get a nice little view. But let's just stop here for a second just to get a nice little good frame on her as she's walking along there. Beautiful. Straight heading west now through the grass, a little bit more open. So giving us a bit more of an opportunity to follow. She's definitely on the hunt, I think. She's spraying as well as she goes, so she's doing a little bit of both. There she goes now, a little bit further. And as I say, can't stay too far behind because she never stops. She also zigzags, changes direction. She's, she'd have you going in circles. Okay, so I need to now start up and follow out behind her. Don't want to lose her. There she is. Still got a view in on her. Go a bit forward here. Just follow her. It'll be great if we get to see her hunting something. Just move forward slowly. And now looks like she might be changing direction again. Heading more in a northerly direction now. She's going up the side of a shudulu or a termite mound. Just go a little bit forward. See exactly what she does. She's going up for a bit of height, I think. Or is she going to go all the way through and keep going on the other side? No. She's taking a bit of an advantage point though, I do believe, having a bit of a lookout. She may have spotted something there. Let's just move. There she goes down. Sorry, Seb. It's just quite dynamic here. We need to just try and get a good shot for you guys, but also try not to get too far behind or lose her, and at the same time trying to find a good pathway through the thickets, which is not always easy. And you also got to think about the vehicle and the vegetation. You don't want to destroy too much, of the bushes. And also, you can quite easily bend the steering rack on the Land Rover. So, Shedulu keep us on our toes in more ways than one. There she goes now, just there spraying again. And the tail flicks up, and you just see a little shoot of liquid, urine. Yvette, you say you're very excited to maybe see a live hunt. Well, I would be excited as well. I've seen it many times, but every time is completely different and always exciting. I always feel a little bit sorry for the prey, but just to be witness to the trials of life and death out here. Without that animal dying, this leopard can't survive. So, it's always that side. The one is dying and the other one's surviving because of it. At least with leopards, it's such a skillful hunt and a very quick death. I think leopards are probably the best killers of the lot. Let's stop there quickly, just to have a look. I know there's some bushes in between, but she's just standing up on a log like that. That, for me, is a nice stance, just to have a quick look at, hey? Just using her height advantage. Almost standing on her back legs. Scanning the area. This light is just making it even that much more incredible. The real contrasts, very bright, illuminated one side and the other side very dark. So much like the dunes of Sossusvlei, where you've got the sunrise and the red dunes on the one side and the black shadow on the other. Does make for beautiful photos and colours. And she's now disappeared behind that log. See, like now, I need to make a decision. You always sometimes need to go around, but she's facing in that direction. I wonder, we need to almost anticipate, but you try and anticipate with her and you sometimes get it very wrong. You go around that way and she's moved off that way. Anyway, while we're doing the anticipation, let's head you off to the bushwalk team.
I have got a very beautiful sighting of a mud wallow here, whereby these animals are coming every time just to clean themselves. So this is for the big animals. I am now going to show you something interesting with regards to some of the animals such as birds. Because the birds, they don't really go for mud bathing, but some of them prefers to do what is called a dust bathing. So let's see a place whereby these birds are coming very often and do their dust bathing. So if you can just check here on the road, you can see that this soil is very much soft. And when the soil is soft like this, the birds, they normally come to the ground and they come and play in its dust. And that is one of the ways, one of the various ways the birds are using to clean themselves. It's called a dust bathing. When people seeing the birds on the ground playing with dust is when they're cleaning themselves. They're not getting dirty out of it. That is one of the ways birds are using to get rid of the parasite. But some of these birds, who doesn't want to go for this dust bathing? They go and do water bathing, and those not interested in water bathing, they go and look for the ants. So when they are with the ants, they provoke the ants, and the ants suddenly secrete something which is called a formic acid. A formic acid, it then serves as an anti-parasitic. So in other words, these birds, they know very well that if we are looking for a chemical to get rid of the parasite, we can go and look for the ants. So you can see that is an interesting relationship. Such a very small animal, birds, knows that a very tiny little insects can benefit them. Interesting, isn't it? So now we are going to carry on and see if we can find something. This morning, when it comes to the big cats, it seems to be very much difficult. But it's very interesting just to be out on a guided walk. Not all about the big animals. Tiny little things are also more interesting for us. So let's see what we're going to find next. Oh, quite a lot of rabbits in the area here. Says no tracks, nothing. You can see the vehicles. There have been quite a lot of movements. So maybe some of the vehicles rubbed the tracks for these animals. Oh, the bush is very quiet, eh? Even the birds are very quiet in this area now. Yeah, but let's see what we're going to find next.
Right, well, we've found some of the animals that these lions potentially could be hunting, because there's some impalas that are in amongst all of this. There's young male impalas, which is not really a big meal for these lions, and I don't think this is initially what they saw. But now that they've seen the impalas, they've had to kind of stop, because otherwise, if they are hunting kudu and there's impala around, you're going to have a situation where they start to shout. The kudu obviously gets aware, and they then don't have, you know, they're not able to then hunt effectively. But the rest of the lions are kind of coming off through my left hand side, so they're quite far back from where we are. They're just sort of down towards our sort of back left at the moment. There you can see them just slowly coming through the bush, and you can see how well camouflaged they are. If that lion stands dead still behind these sort of dry dead branches and leaves and grasses, it is almost impossible to see them. Incredible camouflage that they have, and that's why in winter, you know, they have so much more success in hunting. It's much easier for them to camouflage in this dry grass than it is in the sort of summer green grass. They tend to stand out a little bit more than what they do now, so they're blending in incredibly well. But that's where all the sort of cubs are. They're at the back with one female. We found the one female who was kind of circling through the bush and kind of coming in this direction, and then there was a situation where the other female is slightly off to our right-hand side. So here she comes, Deb. So she's coming on our right-hand side. There she is. And you can see she's trying to get herself into a better position. The impala is just in front of us, and that's what she's watching at the moment. She's kind of now looking for the rest of the pride just to see where they are. So this is now the calculation that's taking place, and the hunt is now properly on. So you're going to have a situation where they're going to probably try and chase these impalas back towards the lionesses that we saw on the left-hand side. So it's going to be interesting to see if they get this right. It's really quite difficult and quite thick in here, and I think it's going to be a tough sort of ask for these lions to actually get close enough to sort of mount a challenge and actually chase them. The impalas seem wary that there's something kind of going on. They're kind of looking around and sort of trying to move and position themselves in ways that they don't kind of get caught out. But I think they know that there's some sort of movement around them that they need to be a little bit careful of. But at least the lions have kind of closed in a little bit more, and it'll be interesting to see if they go after this big individual or some of the younger male impalas. Often when they hunt things like younger male impalas, it's because those individuals are a little bit more or a little less experienced, and it's sometimes easier to catch them out. The problem with that is that it's really not enough food for this many lions. You're going to have a situation where the lions are probably going to have to try and kind of fight it out just to get little bits and pieces of what's going on. Now the impalas have moved quite far, so I just want to go a little bit further forward just so that we can get into a situation where we can see this female that's lying off to our right hand side. Right, now there she is there, so I'm just going to get into this little gap. So while we do this and get into the gap, let's send you back across to Ralph, who's with Shadulu, and I wonder if she's still continuing hunting like our lions.
Well, definitely. Would she be doing anything else? We had a perfect view of her, but now she's keep on moving through there, and as I say, we just got to keep anticipating which exact direction she's going to go. I think I need to now cut through this drainage line and try to keep up with her once again, but at least it's not too thick down here, and we are having a little bit of an opportunity to stick with her, but I mean, we nearly lost her a minute ago, so just need to be slightly careful that we don't get too far behind, because you lose sight of her for a minute and then she's gone. So now, like now, we can't see her. We're trying to anticipate. Seb's got her. That's it. Now, just got to try and get through the bushes here. Might need to go over that one. Just try and catch up and go around here. Watch out for these. It's at least just a quarry. It is a little bit wet. Now we'll see. Okay, let's all go off to Tristan. Very exciting.
Now, unfortunately, we just missed the sort of end of the action, but a lioness went storming into the middle of the impalas, and the impalas exploded out, and they just missed this female in front of us, so they kind of ran across her right-hand side, and so now the hunt is over. You can hear the impalas are alarm calling, and so they've seen the one lioness who's now walking back to this area, and so if the impalas had just bombshelled slightly differently, we might have had a situation where they ran straight in to this lioness. She was close enough to kind of be in the right area. It's just the impala ran slightly too far from her to be able to get there in time. So I think unfortunately that's the end of that. They tried to get around them and tried to kind of hunt back and sort of chase back towards them, but there you go. You can see she's now given up. She's no longer in a stalk position. She's kind of has a situation where she's just going to sort of meander off and try and join the rest of the females. She's looking really, really good. She's watching though. It's interesting. They're kind of almost just checking to make sure that they're both part of the same pride almost, and making sure that they are sort of no longer hunting. They're kind of looking at each other with this forlorn look, but they'll go and kind of meet up, and there'll be a bit of a bonding session now, and I'm pretty sure we'll have a situation where they're going to go back towards the cubs, or the cubs are going to come into this general vicinity. But how cool is that to see the two of them? And like I say, they look really healthy. They do not look like they're emaciated, so they've obviously been feeding quite well wherever they've been spending their time. I know the sticks haven't been around much, so I think they've been a lot on Mala Mala to the south, and so maybe making use of those big open plain areas just to sort of the south of us. There's often a lot of buffalo and wildebeest and all kinds of other things that they can go after. But it's often the case, unfortunately, is that lions generally do miss a lot, and so a lot of the hunts that we see unfortunately end up like this, where it's a lot of stalking and very little kind of chasing, actually, because they get spotted. But you can hear the impalas are very upset. Lots of snorting all around us. That is making a noise. Right, let's turn around and just go and catch up with everybody and go and see what they're going to be doing now. If there's going to be a situation where they're going to regroup and carry on moving. I suspect, though, it's starting to get a bit warm for them and that they might start finding somewhere to rest. But while we do that, let's send you back across to Shadilu, who's still hunting, and hopefully she'll have better luck than the lions.
Well, and now she's just sniffing this bush that's next to this big game path that she's walking down, and she was very intent on finding out maybe whoever had marked there. Maybe it's Hukamuri. It's probably a pathway that he also walks along. It's quite a big one here. Let's move up behind her again. And you see, we also fulfill quite a big function, especially when it gets into very thick areas or big drainage lines, etc., because the other game viewers, they can't really follow as well as we can with these short wheelbase Land Rovers and very high ground clearance as well. So we actually sometimes fulfill that good function of being able to follow the cats for them, and once then they get to a point where they'll be able to see them again, or their vehicles will be able to go on those particular spots, then we call them back to the sighting. And so it does help the guys, I would say, in that regard, because they weren't able to follow in the thick bushes that we were going through a minute ago. And now, oh, let's get onto that spot there. There we go. Donna, that's a good question. Which is their best site? Sense, sorry, I'm getting tongue twisted here. I would say that their smell is probably the best sense, closely followed by hearing and then their sight. I would definitely say those three, but they do use all three of them in very good conjunction. But I would say if they had to lose one of their senses, it would probably do best without their eyes, because their ears and nose would definitely lead them to what they need to know. But yeah, I think a leopard without one of those senses would struggle to survive, because they are so acute in all three that it needs to be, because the prey that they do chase is also trying to survive, so they're using their senses just as acutely as the leopard. Fortunately, leopards, their skill set is just, almost unrivaled when it comes to hunting, especially in this kind of ambush that they do. Just moving through on a particular route, and they know that there's going to be any number of warthog or impala, bushbuck. And look at that now, she's just spun around completely. Maybe she spotted something. Yeah, all the crested barbets calling in the background. She focuses or tries to work out if there is a potential target in front. Just the odd wiggle or waggle of the tail. It's almost like a snake, that tail. You see how it's standing up, almost like a cobra. And you just see a little twitch at the end of it as it moves, and almost showing her mood. See that? Always just a little movement on the end of the tail. As she's seemingly scanning for some food potential. Back and forth. There she goes again. Doesn't look like she's managed to lock in on a target. Right, well, our target is her, and it's moving, so we need to move as well. There she goes. I can still see her. It's nice, a little bit more open here once again, so a little bit easier for us to follow, or not lose her at least. Station Shidulu is now heading almost straight west, heading up towards Vuyatila access. And as I say that, she's now headed south, but I think she's going to come out on Vuyatila. Okay, everyone, so going to try and get a lot closer and just see what she's going to get up to. But while we are relocating, let's head off to Tristan with the lions.
Well, good luck, Ralph. I'm sure you'll be able to find her somewhere. You can see the Styx Pride now is just kind of all finding a bit of shade, and they're going to start resting shortly. It's going to be a situation where they're not going to be too much more active, I don't think. It's getting quite warm now, and so they'll probably just find a place to lie down and take it easy. Now, there are a number of vehicles that are trying to get into the sighting, and we've been here for quite some time, given that they were hunting, so probably going to have to make way for all of them and let them all come through and let them come and have a look. But you can see there's a bit of bonding going on now. So after a hunt, this is vitally important for the pride, is that you'll find they'll all kind of get into a little bunch together, and there'll be some grooming and head rubbing, and it's all just to reaffirm the bonds, make sure that they've got all members of the pride back together again, and that everybody is a-okay before they then settle down to rest. Also, after hunting, they generally have picked up a few parasites from running through the grass, and so it's time just to go and try and kind of groom themselves out, make sure that they get rid of any of those things that have kind of landed on them or climbed onto them or crawled onto them, whatever it may be, and just make sure that the coat is in better condition. You can see there's one adult female in amongst that, and I don't think there's enough space for everybody to lie in the shade, so one by one they're kind of just trying to find their own separate little spots in order to lie down. So we're going to probably let this go and let these guys kind of carry on and find themselves a spot to sit. I can't actually see anything because the sun's in my eyes, so we're going to leave them to try and kind of sort of rest and then have a good sort of time, and by the time we come back this afternoon, hopefully they'll be up and moving again for a bit of a hunt. So while we kind of carry on, let's send you back across to Rolf, who I think is relocated on Shidulu.
Well, yeah, relocated, and she's continuously relocating. So she's now heading almost south. She's possibly going to leave the property. The monkeys have picked her up here at the gate, and they're calling from the big trees just off on our right. Oh, she's running now. She's running. What she spotted. She's down. She's looked like she's hunting. Let me just try. She's going to go around the other end. Sorry, Seb, let me just get around this side. Damn it. Let me get past. I'll get it for you over here. Okay, now she obviously spotted something, but now she's looking at us. Almost that whatever she was looking at has stopped. You know, when she first ran, I've seen her do that, running away from monkeys calling, and I thought she was doing exactly that as well. But then when she got to the termite mound here, she went down low as if she was just about to stalk. But now she started grooming again, and now she's relaxed, and it's obviously a false alarm. Now she's coming straight towards us. Gonna have a good look. Almost like she's gonna jump in the vehicle. She's going right behind the back of us there. There she goes. Ross, I just got the end of that. It's about twitching the end of her tail for different situations. I would say exactly that she does do that, very much showing the mood. You see that? Just flicking. She had a bit of a spray there, just a quick spray. And Well, folks, I think I'm going to have to leave her here because there's quite a few vehicles that do want to come in and have a look. I'm just going to check with them if they are going to be able to actually follow her, and then I might need to leave. So I'm just going to check because we've had a very good time with her. Stations Ralph here from Wild Earth. I'm still on lock here with Shadulu, but I'd like to make space if anybody wants to move in. I'll move out. You're welcome. Okay, there is a vehicle that's coming. I might just get a. Oh, no, there is the other vehicle coming in. Okay, so it's going to be 3 vehicles in there. So we've had a wonderful time with Shadulu, and I just want to give the other guys a chance to also let their guests see her as well. We were unlucky with that little hunt, but, well, that's the way it goes. And anyway, in the meantime, let's head you off to Sydney and the Bushwalk team.
Look at this. Beautiful, eh? Very dark, all going that side, but it's from the same animal. And this is not from a grazer. It's looking dark, yes, I understand. It can confuse a lot of people, but this comes from a carnivore. So these were the first droppings to come out after a meal. So let's just walk a little bit and follow this evidence so that you can see that indeed this is coming from a carnivore. So you can see now how this is packed. It's hard a little bit, but coming this side, you're going to see that we have got the clear droppings. So this is from the same animal, and this is the droppings that came out last. You can see that this one, the color is completely different, and when this is dry, is when it's going to turn white. This is from the hyena. So these droppings for the hyenas are also very much important in this ecology because we have got some of the animals, such as the tortoise. The tortoise does not have tooth to crush bones, but for them to maintain their shell, they must have to then go and eat droppings of those animals that eat the bones so that they can have calcium remaining. So this was a hyena. So let's just carry on, try and see if we can see the tracks, because I cannot see any of the tracks, but going down this side, maybe I'm going to be lucky and be able to identify any of these hyena tracks. Yeah, there is some little bit of evidence coming this side. Oh, here I've got a track now. So this is a track for the hyenas. So normally the hyena tracks, the males, the tracks are much smaller than the females. So the females, mostly, they've got a very big body size. So this female, they've got quite a lot of male genes dominant so that they can be able to defend their little ones when having the little ones. So now we are going to carry on and see if we can find something interesting again just before we finish with the guided walk. So let's carry on. Let's see, maybe the hyena has been following something here. So maybe the hyena is after something, so we're going to head down to this side. But now let's go to Tristan, who's got something interesting for us.
Well, not too much, and we've just left the lions. We've let them kind of carry on with their morning. They're all into little spots to sleep and rest, and found a bit of shade and taking it sort of easy. So I'm sure this afternoon they'll be in a very similar spot, and that they'll probably in all likelihood just kind of take it easy until around sunset. But they are obviously looking to hunt, so I think this afternoon is going to be a really good bet to come here and see what's going on. Pretty sure we'll have a situation where they might just be around and moving, and hopefully we can get something really cool out of it. So it'll be good to see. It was a nice morning with them though, nice surprise, and they really did kind of move around much more than I expected. We had a situation where they were kind of, you know, moving up and down and hunting, and so cold mornings do bring about sort of activity when it comes to cats, particularly kind of late in the morning. Now you can see we've just gotten onto Gowrie Main, which is a massive road and probably one of the best roads actually for finding tracks, so I'll have a look out for tracks while we go and start slowly winding our way home. But it's been a good morning though, all in all, if we think about it. I mean, Ralph's had Shadulu. It's been a wonderful sort of moment for him. I know he's been looking for Shadulu for the last few days, and so very nice that he's been able to find her, and it's really kind of good. And I'm sure Sydney's thoroughly enjoyed his first bushwalk. Hopefully you all did too, and asked him lots and lots of questions. And as for us, well, we started very, very chilly and cold, but it ended up being very pleasant, and now it's actually nice and warm. It's actually a very pleasant sort of temperature, even though I am wearing gloves and all kinds of other nonsense that makes me look as though I'm going to the North Pole. But it is, I suppose the wind is still a little cold. But either way, it's been, like I say, a really good morning, and we've managed to actually find quite a lot today, which is wonderful. After yesterday's rain, I thought we might have a bit of a tough day. But anyway, from Sydney, myself, Ralph, it's been an absolute pleasure. We enjoyed having you all along for the ride. We'll see you this afternoon on our Sunset Safari.